Hey, welcome back to the Cameron's Lab Dive In podcast. Last week, I got to attend an event hosted by ACM. They're the Computer Science Society at my university, and they brought in a guest speaker to give us some career advice and teach us how to future proof or AI proof ourselves. Now, I know what you're thinking. Everybody that says that usually gives really generic advice, and it's on basically every LinkedIn post that you can find. But what I really found interesting about this person's advice was that he broke it down into bite sized categories and gave actionable advice on how we can achieve it. So I think that you'll find this helpful as well, especially because it comes from a tech executive at a top company like Dell Technologies. Interested? Let's go ahead and break it down. Hey there, STEM enthusiasts! Welcome back to Cameron's Lab Dive In, the go-to podcast for STEM students, crafted with passion by one of your own. I'm Kameron, your enthusiastic and ever-curious host. Buckle up for today's insightful episode. Ready to dive in? So, the guest speaker was Mr. Walid Yehia. He's the managing director at Dell Technologies and is currently managing operations worth $1 billion US. Yes, you heard me correctly, $1 billion US. As I mentioned, this isn't your typical corporate advice. Mr. Yehia had some really fresh takes on success, especially in the age of AI. And I think you're going to want to hear this as well. I'm sure we've all heard the article titles of AI is taking over, AI is replacing all the jobs. How do we AI proof ourselves? Even the World Economic Forum recently released an article where they mentioned that 23% of the jobs are going to end up not existing anymore, and they're going to be replaced with a whole new set of jobs. So with all this change in the market, how do we protect ourselves? Let's start with something that made me breathe a huge sigh of relief. Mr. Yehia started off by saying, don't be a perfectionist. I can't tell you how many nights I've stayed up till 3 a.m. making my projects perfect, especially in that final year of engineering where we were having to show our professor something new every week, some kind of new progress, and I wanted to make it perfect every single time. But of course, that was really draining, and it took a lot out of me. But Mr. Yehia explains that you can reach 90 to 95% perfection pretty quickly. But it's that last 5 to 10% that we end up spending all of our energy on. That's where you can get stuck in a loop. The key is knowing when to say, this is good enough, and to keep moving forward. You can always improve later, but don't get so stuck on being perfect that you end up not making any progress at all. Mr. Yehia gave his own story of this during his last year in engineering. We all know that last thesis project is so important, and for his one, he had to make a computer with a group. So his part of the project was to create a keyboard. And while he was able to do this successfully, it was working, he was able to show it to his professor. About 2 to 3 days, I think he said, before the project was due, he decided to overhaul the design entirely. Now, of course, computer parts were expensive, so we had to dismantle the working keyboard in order to make this new, improved design. And of course, the inevitable happened. The new keyboard didn't work at all. Thankfully, his supervisor already knew that his keyboard was working and was able to explain that to the other professors. So he didn't lose any marks. But can you imagine what would have happened if he didn't have that professor to say that his previous keyboard was working? All of that work that he had done before would have been completely wasted, all because he was just trying to be perfect instead of focusing on the fact that he had a working product. So trying to chase perfection and trying to make everything exactly as you have it in your mind may end up losing you time when it's something that you could just do a minimum viable product, something they say in the business world, and improving upon it later. Speaking of time management, here's his next insight. Mr. Yehia shared a real story of how he used data analytics to track procrastination in his teams. Now, I feel like procrastination is the downfall of all of us. So instead of calling people out, which probably wouldn't have worked, Mr. Yehia used data to help his team improve. Now, as students, we can do this too. Have you ever tried those apps that let you track your study time? And also they block access to other apps on your phone, I think. I've been trying to use it recently myself, just to kind of track how my studying is going and how much time it takes me to do certain tasks. And honestly, the data works. It's really cool to see how long it takes me to study for things. One thing I think would take me 30 minutes actually ends up taking me an hour. So I think now I'm trying to work on how to break it down into smaller tasks so that I can spend a bit less time. So all that to say, data works. And it'll be really helpful for us as students to kind of look at how long we're taking to do tasks and then use that data to help improve ourselves, which is what Mr. Yehia was able to do for his team. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say, the elephant in the crowd. I'm sorry, that was terrible. But seriously, we've all seen the AI is taking our jobs headlines. Like I mentioned before, everybody's very worried about this. I've even brought it up myself on the podcast before. And, with everybody saying that the job market is cooked, we're all looking for ways to future-proof ourselves. Mr. Yehia gave a pretty refreshing approach to this. He pointed out that autopilot, for example, has been around for 30 plus years now. And yet, we still have pilots, right? So instead of fearing AI and all this new evolving technology, he says that we should focus on 4 key skill categories that AI can't replace. So let's talk about those 4 skill categories, what they are, and then also I'm going to break them down for you so you know what they all entail. Category number 1, technological skills. This is how we deal with technology. Things like prompt engineering, which is actually a career now, and just how we are able to do coding, for example. All these different things are able to build up our technological skills and really make us invaluable in the workplace. Because everybody wants that human component when they're working. Category number 2, cognitive skills. This includes skills like analytical thinking, complex problem solving, and data interpretation. Don't just rely on computers. Try to learn how to do some of these things for yourself as well. The third category is social and emotional skills. Things like working in a team, collaborating, showing that you're a human. As I mentioned, everybody wants to work with a person. Nobody wants to have a robot. Well, maybe I do, but you want to have a person that you can speak with and connect with when you're working in a team, not just somebody that's been copying and pasting from ChatGPT all day. The fourth and final category is resilience and adaptability. As I mentioned, there's so many scary article titles that are freaking everybody out about being replaced or this new technology getting more and more powerful, more and more smart. It's more intelligent than us. And while some of these things might be a little bit true, there's always one constant thing in tech, and that's change. Technology is constantly evolving. We are constantly evolving. And it's really important to be able to understand that these things are inevitable, but it's an uncertainty that's almost constant. And we have to learn how to deal with it and accept it. Because if we don't, we will be left behind by the people that are able to accept it and are able to integrate it into their workplace. So again, the 4 categories that he mentioned are technological skills, cognitive skills, social and emotional skills, and then finally, resilience and adaptability. With these 4 categories, you should be successful in the age of AI. Let's say that you have skills in all 4 of these categories and you're ready to apply for a job. What are recruiters looking for? How can you stand out? Well, Mr. Yehia actually gave some advice at this because somebody asked him this exact question. How can I stand out? What are recruiters looking for? And his answer was that he doesn't want to hire people that are normal. He wants people that go the extra mile, that follow their passions. So yes, being a tech nerd, being a tech geek, actually is really helpful because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people with passion, people that love what they do. So make sure that you show that passion yourself when you're in interviews or when you're writing cover letters. Another important thing, Mr. Yehia said that he actually looks out for people that are frequently changing jobs. Now, I don't know about you, but I've actually seen a lot of different videos on TikTok and also on YouTube talking about how people in the tech industry are able to change their job every, I think, 2 years just to increase the salary. But Mr. Yehia says that he actually looks at this as a negative because it shows a lack of loyalty to the company or a person that's just going to be there for 2 years and then leaving him high and dry in the team. So something to consider, whether or not you want to be changing to constantly improve your salary or if you want to be able to show that you're a loyal team player. Totally up to you. And up for discussion as well. The final point that he gave us, which I think all of us can follow, and we've heard before as well, is balance. Balance is key. You want to be able to find your happiness while you're working, but also take some time for yourself. Burnout is real. If you're constantly working, constantly trying to be the next big thing in the world, or if you're constantly trying to improve on yourself, without taking a moment and taking a break for yourself, you're going to burn out. And nobody wants that. We want you to be happy, healthy, taking your time. So look out for things like that as well. Try to find balance as much as you can. Okay. So if I could give you a TLDR of the insights that I gained from Mr. Walid Yehia, I would say Focus on what you can control. Embrace AI as a tool rather than a threat. Don't get caught in the trap of perfectionism. And remember that success in tech isn't all about technical skills. It's about being a well rounded person that can adapt and grow in any situation. Maybe you'll try to implement some of these tips for yourself. Like maybe start with that perfectionism thing. Try to reach the 95% and see how that goes so you can move on to the next task and try not to procrastinate as well. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thank you for stepping into the lab, and I will see you in the next one. If you want to continue connecting and we can share our STEM journey with each other, you can follow me over on my Instagram and TikTok, which is Kameron's_lab, or you can continue listening in on the podcast, which is Kameron's Lab Dive In. You can find me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the places that you love to find podcasts. And I look forward to diving in with you again. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye. Hi again, awesome listener. That wraps up another deep dive of Kameron's Lab Dive In. Before you dive back into your day, see what I did there? Take a second to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Want a behind-the-scenes look? Bonus content? Or just some good old STEM fun? Follow me on my socials, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Kameron's Lab. And remember, every episode is a new adventure, and we've got some thrilling dives lined up for you. Don't miss out! Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.